The US Secretary of State has told Russia there will be no compromise on Ukrainian sovereignty or on NATO's open door policy. He was briefing reporters on Washington's response to a set of Russian security demands over Ukraine. Russia has some 120,000 troops close to the Ukrainian border, and US officials believe Russia may be likely to attack Ukraine over the next 3 weeks. The British Prime Minister has insisted he will not resign as the UK waits for the release of an official report into parties held in Downing Street during coronavirus lockdowns. And Prince Andrew has demanded a trial by jury in the civil sex case brought against him by Virginia Giuffre. She says she was forced to have sex with the prince when she was 17. In a court document filed on Wednesday, Prince Andrew's lawyers deny the allegations.
Talks involving Russia, Ukraine, Germany and France begin in Paris. The negotiations seek to ease tensions over Russia's deployment of troops near its border with Ukraine. Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen urges Myanmar's military ruler to permit a visit by a diplomat from Southeast Asia's ASEAN group and to support efforts to get aid to Myanmar's people. Yemen's government says it has pushed Houthi rebels out of Marib province, the country's second largest. And in Australia, demonstrators take to the streets on Australia Day to protest historical wrongs to native people.
We begin here in Japan, where officials reported a record number of coronavirus cases on Wednesday for the second day in a row. New cases around the country topped 70,000 for the first time. 470 people are in serious condition, up 26 from Tuesday. More than two-thirds of Japan's 47 prefectures saw record daily infections, including Tokyo. New cases in the capital almost doubled from the same day last week. Now, the spike comes as 18 more prefectures have been added to the list of areas under a quasi-state of emergency. Stricter anti-infection measures are scheduled to last until mid-February. They include asking bars and restaurants to close early and take alcohol off their menus. The measures are intended to stop the medical system from being overwhelmed. Nearly 43% of hospital beds set aside for coronavirus patients in Tokyo are occupied. The metropolitan government has set a threshold of 50% before it could request a full state of emergency in the capital. The government is pressing ahead with the rollout of booster shots, mainly for medical workers and the elderly.
I feel safer now.
I go to a daycare center, so I wanted to get the jab.
About 14.7 million people are eligible for a booster shot by the end of this month, but only around 20% have received one so far. And some local governments are reporting most people prefer the Pfizer vaccine to Moderna. About 2,000 residents of Tomisato City near Tokyo made reservations for a booster in the past week. Around 90% of them chose Pfizer. City officials worry the imbalance could delay the inoculation schedule as they receive the same amount of each vaccine from the government. Now, officials in France are scrambling to deal with a record spike in coronavirus cases as well. New infections there have topped 500,000 for the first time. French health authorities confirmed nearly 502,000 new cases on Tuesday. The daily number had been hovering around 300,000 since the beginning of the year. The surge is causing France to tighten its anti-infection measures. A new law came into effect on Monday. It requires people to show vaccination certificates to enter bars, restaurants, and long-distance trains. Unvaccinated people were previously able to show a negative test result to gain entry. And South Korea is also struggling with a record number of cases. Officials confirmed more than 13,000 new infections on Tuesday. Public health authorities say cases rose by over 40% in only one day.
Anti-coronavirus measures from here on will place priority on reducing the number of seriously ill patients and deaths.
The Prime Minister says local medical facilities will start treating infected patients from next month. That's on top of the care currently being offered at large government-designated hospitals. He also urged people not to visit their hometowns during the Lunar New Year holiday period that starts on Saturday. People have gathered at a Tokyo train station to remember two men who lost their lives as they tried to save a man who'd fallen onto the tracks. The accident occurred 21 years ago, but the two are still remembered for their selfless act. It happened at Shin-Okubo Station on January 26, 2001. South Korean student Lee Soo-hyun and Japanese photographer Sekine Shiro acted quickly as they jumped from the platform to try to save the man. But the train was unable to slow down in time, and all three were killed. Those who gathered for the memorial included South Korea's ambassador to Japan and the head of the Japanese language school Lee attended. They laid flowers in front of a plaque that pays tribute to the victims. During the ceremony, a video message sent from Lee's mother was shown. She was unable to travel to Japan from South Korea because of the coronavirus pandemic.
I had been looking forward to traveling to Japan because visiting Shin-Okubo on this day makes me feel like I can see my son. I'm a little disappointed.
Lee's parents used condolence money they received to set up a fund for people wanting to study in Japan. The fund has so far provided scholarships to more than 1,000 students from 19 countries and regions. Turning now to allegations of cheating in one of Japan's largest national exams. A criminal investigation is underway after questions from this year's standardized university entrance test were leaked. It appears an attempt was made to dupe current college students into providing answers during the test. This image has been confirmed to be a question from Japan's standardized university entrance exam. 500,000 people across the nation applied for it earlier this month. It's thought someone taking the test took photos and sent them on via smartphone. Sources say at least 2 current university students hoping to pick up work as tutors received the images and sent back answers, not knowing they were questions from the actual exam. NHK spoke to another student who had been hoping to find tutoring work. She says the sender claimed to be a high school girl aiming to prepare for the exam next year.
I was asked to solve some exam questions typically given in the standardized entrance exams. I was allowed to consult textbooks to solve them to provide the best answers.
But the offer of work was suddenly canceled, and the student did not respond to the request. Tokyo police are trying to establish who leaked the questions and if others were involved. We now move to growing tensions over a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine. UN envoys from those countries have accused each other of escalating the situation. The two sides faced off in an open debate hosted by the UN Security Council. Russia's deputy ambassador to the UN, Gennady Kuzmin, said Western nations are using an artificial excuse to supply Ukraine with weapons and military advisors and are encouraging its provocations. In response, his Ukrainian counterpart, Yuri Vitrenko, said more than 100,000 Russian troops have been deployed along the border with Ukraine against what he called the backdrop of warmongering rhetoric and unacceptable ultimatums by Russia. Vitrenko said his country sees no alternative to political and diplomatic solution to the standoff. He called on the Council to make full use of its mandate to avoid military confrontation. U.S. President Joe Biden has warned his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin could face personal sanctions if Russia moves into Ukraine.
Would you ever see yourself personally sanctioning him if he did invade Ukraine?
Yes.
You would?
I would see that.
The Biden administration has already warned Russia it would impose massive economic sanctions if there's an incursion. Senior U.S. officials had said Washington would also consider placing export controls on key high-tech products. They said it would include a ban on exports of products that include sophisticated technologies from U.S. firms, as well as some foreign-made products that fall under American export rules. The officials also said the trade restrictions would target areas important to Putin, including defense and artificial intelligence. Now, Ukraine's ambassador to Japan has underscored the need for diplomatic efforts by all parties to find a solution to the situation.
We want peaceful, secure, and a safe Ukraine. So that is the most important. So we will do whatever possible to avoid conflict.
I have 2 questions.
Korsunsky was speaking at a news conference Wednesday in Tokyo. He said he believes a full-scale war is very difficult to expect, but we may see a more localized conflict. Referring to Ukraine's numerous nuclear power plants, Korsunsky cautioned if the country comes under attack with missiles or in other ways, the consequences will not be confined to its borders. In other news, the U.S. Navy is working to recover one of its fighter jets after it fell into the South China Sea on Monday while trying to land on an aircraft carrier. The F-35C stealth fighter was attempting to land on the USS Carl Vinson, which was involved in an exercise. 7 personnel were injured in the incident. A spokesperson for the U.S. 7th Fleet confirmed to NHK on Wednesday the aircraft hit the flight deck, then fell into the water. U.S. media have cited concerns the state-of-the-art aircraft could fall into the hands of China, which has been increasing its maritime presence in the area. The 7th Fleet spokesperson said they cannot speculate about China's intentions in the matter. The Carl Vinson has been conducting maritime exercises in the South China Sea since Sunday with another nuclear-powered carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln. Thailand's prime minister has paid a visit to Saudi Arabia in an effort to patch up relations between the countries that have been soured for over 30 years. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha was in Riyadh on Tuesday to hold talks with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Diplomatic ties soured after the theft of jewels by a Thai worker from a Saudi palace in 1989. The two sides have agreed to resolve their differences, exchange ambassadors, and restore full diplomatic relations. A Saudi statement adds they'll strengthen economic cooperation, including on energy resources. Saudi Arabia's national airline announced direct flights between the nations will start in May. Bangkok says the tourism industry will benefit and Thais will be able to work in the country again. Saudi Arabia downgraded Thais 3 decades ago after the jewels were stolen. Thai media reports some have been returned, but Riyadh says most were counterfeit and a rare 50-carat blue diamond remains missing. Still, the Saudis say they're satisfied with Thailand's efforts to resolve the matter. Shifting now to the weather, people in eastern Canada and the northeastern United States are shivering under extremely cold weather. Our meteorologist Jonathan O has the forecast for there and elsewhere in our World Weather Report.
Hello, a bitter blast has impacted the central and eastern areas of both Canada and also the northern areas of the United States. And it looks like we're going to be dealing with some winter weather as we have another front that's going to be rolling through the area. Plenty of cold air in place. And yes, you see that little front dropping through from the north. That's when you bring in the possibility of some snowfall into places like Ontario as we go into the next couple of days. Now, high pressure that has been the instigator of this really cold air will be moving eastward. Behind it, a bit on the windy side, and then it's going to be moving eastward. Now, down to the south, we've been talking about a low pressure system that's been moving into Florida. And we'll watch this very closely because as we go toward the end of this week, it may be developing into something a little bit more significant. And so as it moves toward the north and east, we might be talking about a possibility of a nor'easter developing into the northeastern areas of the United States. And so be on the lookout for that. Look at this. Winnipeg, chilly, a high of -8. Chicago at 1. That's warmer than what we've seen for the past couple of days. So it's warmer, but still chilly. Snow expected there. Also to Toronto as we go through the day on Thursday. Denver looking at a high of -3. Keeping an eye on what's happening down toward Vanuatu, the possibility of a tropical system developing in the area here. You may see these clouds trying to organize themselves. Even if it doesn't, we're seeing plenty of rain expected as we go throughout the next couple of days. And so also New Caledonia, you'll also be picking up on some of that wet weather coming up as we go through the next couple of days. Across East Asia, we have a stationary front developing down to the southern areas of China. And so that's going to be bringing the chance for some rain, possibly even some snow farther up to the north. And those of you over into Okinawa, you'll also be picking up on the wet weather with this. Low pressure, a couple of them taking care of the weather in the northern areas of Japan. That's going to bring some snowfall once again as we go into the day on Thursday. Tokyo looking at partly cloudy skies, a high of 11. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.